interstate was a black ribbon pulled tight across the high desert, and my cab was the only lit room for miles. A small square of gauges and coffee steam moving east under a sky that looked like an overturned bowl of cold iron. I was hauling dry freight out of Gallup toward Amarillo with a delivery window that played arithmetic games I had learned to stop taking personally. The wind came low off the mesas and made the trailer lean just enough to keep me honest. Channel 19 hissed and popped with stray voices that blew in and out like tumbleweed. I had another hour in me before I would need to find a place to shut down, which out here means picking between a lit slab of concrete pretending to be a plaza and a dark pullout pretending to be safety. Somewhere past Klein's Corners it appeared in my mirror, two low headlights sliding up the right lane like a decision I had not made yet. The car held a steady approach until it should have passed, then fell in behind my trailer at a respectful distance that felt like insult. I tapped my brakes twice to tell a human to either go on or back off. The headlights did not dip or flare. They matched the exact half-mile an hour that separated my speed from theirs and settled like a stone into my night. I gave it a minute because the road teaches patience or it takes it from you. The car stayed in the pocket where my mirrors make bright dots into eyes. I signaled right and eased onto the shoulder to let it go. The car eased right with me and then left with me when I came back. That is when the discomfort entered my hands. I toggled my hazards to tell whoever sat back there that they were writing a ticket I did not want to pay. The orange blink washed over the nose of a sedan, a late model black Crown Vic with a push bar and a grille that had once meant law and now meant auction. And the windshield reflected my lamps without returning the silhouette of a headrest or a person. The glass looked empty. The angle could have lied, but I have been looking into windshields for too long not to trust the part of my eye that is older than logic. I keyed up. Back door, either pass or give me your lane. We have room to do this polite. The radio gave me wind and someone in Texas talking about a steer. The car's lights did not move. I tried again with more authority because tone travels. Back door, move it. The lights brightened a fraction like a person laying a hand on your shoulder to make a point and then dimmed to where they had been. I told myself to find a crowd. If you get two more big trucks around anything stupid, stupid gets discouraged. A pair of trailers up ahead ran in stagger and I closed on them with the kind of hunger you carry for other people when you are tired and sensible enough to admit it. The car behind me closed. When I tucked in a quarter-mile behind the pair, the mystery set up a perfect triangle with us, forming a little convoy that nobody asked for. The driver of the lead called out on 19, "Got yourself a tail with a personality." I asked him if he could see a silhouette. He said the windshield looked like a fish tank with the lights out. The second trucker, a bull hauler with that high restlessness in his voice, men who haul live-weight pickup from their cargo, said he had heard about a driverless thing out of Santa Rosa, a car that chased brakes and waited for nerves. I told him to tell a better story, and he chuckled in a way that said he preferred someone else's fear to his own. A rest area sign promised bathrooms and vending machines and reasons not to stop. I took it anyway. The car took it with me. The lot sat in a shallow bowl of dirt, with two rows of trucks facing each other like old horses dozing, and a line of sedans with engines running so their owners could pretend the night did not exist. I backed into a slot with my trailer square, left the engine at a low idle, and watched the mirror. The Crown Vic rolled to a stop one truck length behind my bumper, dead center, straight as a ruler, and sat like a servant waiting for orders. I unbuckled slowly, not because I thought it would matter, but because haste makes men act like targets. I grabbed my tire buddy and stepped down into cold that smelled like sage and antifreeze. The sedan's engine hummed on the high note old Fords carry when they want you to think they are younger. I walked back as if checking my doors and stared into the windshield. The interior was dark and clean in a way that used car lots achieve with armor and vacuum. No papers on the dash, no jacket, no fuzz of dog hair on the seat, no hanging tag swinging on a mirror, no head. The driver's seat looked empty, the headrest unsilhouetted by any human shape that would have blocked my headlight glare. I felt the urge to knock on the glass like you do when a cousin hides in a bedroom during a party and you want them to either come out or declare their need to be left alone. The door locks clicked once, a little animal sound that had no kindness in it, and the high beams flashed in the universal language of "pass me." But the car did not move. I stepped back toward my cab. The sedan rolled forward 8 inches without a sound, like a dog following a master 4 steps before a leash tugs. I climbed into the truck and locked both doors because habit is how we survive getting lessons we did not ask for. On the radio, the bull hauler said something that made me feel stupider for not thinking of it. "Shine your phone camera at low angle into the glass and see if you catch the outline." I did, and the screen showed empty seat, steering wheel, vinyl, no body, no motion. My thumb shook enough to make the picture jitter, and I hated my own biology for making me part of the problem. I put the phone down and watched the backup camera feed on my dash. The sedan's headlights made 2 precise spears pointed at my ICC bumper. The hot air coming off my exhaust made the beams ripple. The car never broke the perfect T. After 2 minutes of not moving in a space built for moving, I pulled out. The sedan did too. We merged back to I-40, and my stomach settled into a hard knot of math and superstition. I decided to get to a way station. Cameras and lights and law make ridiculousness behave. The sign for the eastbound scales lit closed in green. That meant the building was staffed enough to operate the sign and not staffed enough to make my night better. I took the ramp anyway. The sedan took it with me. The canopy lights washed the concrete in hospital tone, and the building's windows showed nobody who wanted to look at me. I rolled across the platform slow enough to trigger a hiss from the ghost of my first teacher, and the axle numbers glowed fine on the screen, all legal, all boring. The sedan stopped 10 feet behind my trailer and killed its lights. In the reflection of the wayhouse glass, its windshield showed me, not it, and I did not like being the only person in the picture with a face. The exit ramp looped down past a set of spike strips that caught my eye a second before my brain chose gratitude. The spikes were the wrong way deterrent, a row of toothy steel that would shred tires if you came in from the exit. I thought about leading the sedan into a mistake any person would not make. I took the loop in a wide, slow arc that would be absurd for any human in any sedan to copy. The sedan copied me exactly, fell onto the wrong concrete, rolled across the teeth, and the front tires unzipped with a sound that turned my mouth dry. The car rocked onto its rims and kept pace. The sparks that shot from under it peeled the night in orange fans, and my mirrors filled with a sheet of light that made my truck look like it had found a sunset. The smell of burned rubber came through my vents, late and heavy. The sedan did not sag. It did not even complain with a wobble. It rode steel and fire, and followed. I keyed up on 19 and told anyone within 20 miles they were about to see something they would spend years explaining badly. The lead of my earlier pair came back a mile ahead and said he was sliding off at the next truck stop with the big cow on the billboard and would circle the lot if I needed a box to hide in. I thanked him, and then a second voice cut in with calm that made me love the world again for a moment. "State Patrol eastbound 3 miles out, describe your tail." I said Black Crown Vic, no plates I could see, front tires shredded and throwing sparks, appears to have no visible driver. The patrolman said get to light and stay in the cab and do not be a hero. The light of the truck stop popped up like a late party in the middle of a dark town, and I took the ramp with the care you give a hummingbird if it lands on your wrist. The sedan took it with me and met the pavement crack for crack like it had spent a lifetime learning this exact lot. I rolled into the lanes between the fuel islands and the Crown Vic threaded behind me with the same precision men use when they own their mistakes. The bull hauler and the lead pulled out of their slots and formed a loose L beside the pumps as if they had practiced it, their trailers making a wall I could tuck into. I slid behind them and stopped with my rear doors facing the main lane. The sedan stopped 15 feet back and went silent. No fan noise, no metal tick, nothing but heat coming off it in a visible ribbon. The trooper's SUV swept in a second later and parked in the main lane with its bar red and blue glaring and the spotlight deadlined onto the Crown Vic's windshield. He approached at a crouch with his hand low and calm, like he had a lot of years and enough stories to tell, and hoped this would not be another. He peered into the glass and tilted his head, and then he did something I will not forget, because it told me what he saw. He took his free hand off the pistol and touched the light beam with his fingers, like he could push it further into the car. His voice went quieter when he spoke to the radio at his shoulder. No occupant visible. Front tires gone. Vehicle appears to be in gear or otherwise holding itself. No plate. Copy that. He stepped sideways and put his palm on the hood in that old way lawmen do when they want a car to know which side God is on. The Crown Vic's engine snapped to life like it had been holding its breath to be polite, and the car leapt forward a foot. The trooper moved like a man who has decided to live, and the bumper missed his thigh by just enough to teach him respect for luck. He recovered with grace, and his gun came out because habit is how you walk away from a thing like that. But it is hard to shoot a car and make it mean anything to a judge. He aimed at the grill and shouted, "Stop," and the car did, and then the high beams lit and held his face in white. He stepped back and cut the light with the edge of his hand, and the car turned the beams off as if embarrassed, then edged left to peek around my trailer. The trooper looked at me like I could explain, and I lifted both palms like a child who spilled milk and is trying to be honest about it. The bull hauler keyed up. "Driver, you want to back up between us and the dumpster? We will give you a funnel." I did, inching backward while two men with tired voices on the radio talked me into a space no sensible person would try in daylight. The Crown Vic rolled forward the same 2 inches I rolled back and then paused as if reconsidering what it meant to be stubborn. The trooper climbed into his SUV and pushed it nose to nose with the black car. They idled at each other like bulls. He was on the radio with someone who sounded like they knew the car. I caught phrases through the mess of CB chatter and diesel noise. Decommissioned, auction, previous incident, trooper fatal years back, Crown Vic Unit 17, local legend, prank calls, no way the same car. He asked me if I had dash cam. I said yes. He told me not to erase a thing. The Crown Vic sat there in a light bath and made the quiet that hot metal makes. When he tried to push it back with the SUV, the Vic rolled 1 inch, then another, and then planted as if a human foot had pressed a brake pedal that did not exist for anyone to press. He looked down at his console like a man who wants the next idea to be honest. Then he popped the latch on the spike strip box. He hauled the strip out under the light, and the Crown Vic listened like a dog curious about the shape of voice. He threw the strip under the rear tires, and the rear collapsed onto steel teeth, and the car finally sagged like a person who has been pretending not to be tired. The trooper exhaled, and the radio in his car made a remark about backup, and everything went a little smaller, as if the world had decided to be normal again, because there were more people to witness it. They towed it out of the lane on dolly wheels that bit the rear and lifted the rims, and the car rolled obedient in defeat like a convict who has chosen dignity. As it passed, my mirror caught the interior again. The driver's seat had no wear. The steering wheel was immaculate. The floor mat was clean to an insult. Something about that emptiness felt worse than any amount of blood or personal trash would have. The wrecker hauled the car to the edge of the lot, and the troopers fussed and measured and took pictures with flash that made the scene look like prom. One trooper pulled the trunk release with a long hook through the rear seat gap because prudence is a habit, and the lid popped to reveal nothing but a spare that had never kissed asphalt, a jack, and a folded vinyl cover like what you throw over a thing when you throw away the reason for it to exist. He closed it with 2 fingers and looked a little older. He took my information like a man who is building a story he will not tell at his kitchen table. He told me if I saw it again to call, and it was a kind instruction that existed mostly to make me feel like daylight is a contract. Dawn thinned the sky and made the lot look like a place instead of a stage. The bull hauler came over and clapped my shoulder and called me driver with the kind of warmth that should be a currency. The lead shook my hand as if we had run cattle together across a range that had tried to take one of us. I fueled up because the meter asked, and I wanted to do something my brain could tally. I cleaned the insects from my windshield that the desert likes to paint on. When I pulled out, the tow had already left with the Crown Vic, heading west toward a yard that would make a file for it and pretend the file was a solution. The state SUV followed with its lights off. I merged back to the eastbound, and the sunlight drew a careful line along my hood. 10 miles later, past a long straightaway where the land lay down like it wanted to rest, a pair of low headlights appeared in my mirror at the edge of the horizon and held there, humming, patient, learning my speed like a song. I told myself it was a different car, owned by a man with ordinary human faults. I told myself my hands knew the work, and my engine knew the grade, and my head knew the distance to the next town. The radio hissed and quieted, and for a long minute nothing existed except white lines and air. Then a voice I could not name said in the speakers like a father in a doorway telling a kid to keep it between ditches, "Keep your nose clean." I tightened my belt, checked my mirrors, and drove. If you want rules, here are the only ones I trust. Do not engage with anything that refuses to make a face when it demands your attention. Do not let a perfect following distance flatter you into ignoring how wrong it feels. If a car matches your mistakes without crowning you for making them, it is not a man. Find light, find people, find cameras and a trooper with the patience to put his hand on a hood before he puts his hand on a gun. Do not count on tire spikes to give the lesson you think they will. Rims ride, sparks lie. If it will not pass you and it will not leave you and no one is holding the wheel, recall that evil loves precision, and precision is what keeps a big truck alive and decide which side of that line you intend to stand. I am a trucker, and I have miles to go, and I have learned that some nights the desert decides to invent new predators. When it happens, you do the job anyway. You take the lane, you keep the gear that keeps you safe. You find the men who will form a wall or a funnel, and you go through. And if a voice you half recognize tells you to keep your nose clean while the mirror glows with a pair of eyes that never blink, you nod and behave, because sometimes the only thing between you and whatever is following is the shape of the man you are when nobody else is inside the glass.